This is FlySky's brand new FS-ST8 transmitter. Wow! But why is it here? Why does it exist? Well, it's made to fill the gap between FlySky's budget radios like the i6X or the i6 and their premium Paladin 18. The price on this for the standard model is $75 and the upgraded model is $85. This uses FlySky's brand new ANT or ANT transmitter protocol, which is supposed to be an upgrade from the older AFHDS2A, but not as good as the premium AFHDS3. It has 10 channels, which is pretty standard and plenty for quads and even slightly complicated airplanes. And you can even use tracked or other ground vehicles with this, although I have not. This radio does feature an external module port on the back for JR style modules. However, it is only compatible with FlySky modules, so no Crossfire or ELRS for you. Also, you need to make sure that you have the plastic adapter, which does seem like a bit of an afterthought, and that comes included with the upgraded version. You might be able to buy it separately, but I haven't seen it available anywhere. Don't buy this transmitter if you want one that can bind with various brands of receivers or that uses the very popular OpenTX or EdgeTX operating system. That will give you a lot more features, and that's why it's one of the most common for all of the popular radios today. To be sure, you are locked into the FlySky universe. Yes, this is better than the older FS-i6X. Between the ST8 and the i6X, which one should you buy? I would say get the ST8. I think that it offers a lot more features for just a little bit more price. Now, if you already have a bunch of the older AFHDS2A protocol FlySky receivers, but you want to upgrade your radio to the ST8, you can purchase FlySky's FS-RM003 external transmitter module, but remember you have to have that little module adapter in the back. So, should you buy this transmitter? Well, at first I thought, of course you should not, because there are so many other transmitters on the market now, and they all have tons of features like multi-protocol capabilities and OpenTX or EdgeTX, and you can do all kinds of stuff with them, and they're amazing, right? Well, especially now, given the increased prices as of late, which is now May 2022, I think the ST8, although not as feature-rich as other modern radios, still fills a role as a simpler sub-100 radio that is still very capable and especially appealing to beginners. One more important thing I just want to mention right off the bat, I did have an issue with this receiver. At least I think it may be a receiver issue. I did test the SRM receiver. First time it worked flawless, and then I crashed my quad. Next time I took it out, I had some control issues. So it kind of feels okay, right? But then sometimes like that, see that? I'm not, like, I took the throttle down like this. What the heck? What's going on, guys? What's going on, guy? Huh? Yeah, that's bad. It's weird. It does what I want it to, but like, it does it very poorly. And it seemed like the channel signals were not getting sent properly to the flight controller. So I don't know if it's the flight controller or the receiver or the radio or what's going on yet. Okay, now you know all of the most important stuff. If you want to learn more about this radio and specifically the features that I like about it that they improved over the i6X, keep watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let's get started.
And you like stretch out my face and get it all ready to make some videos. You know what I mean? Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam, and today we're taking a look at the FlySky
ST8. When I heard that FlySky was coming out with a brand new radio, I said, and that was pretty much it. But I got really excited because I saw on the back of the radio is a spot for an external module bay. What? And that is something that the other radios, FlySky radios, have not had. And they've really been like behind the times because now everything has a module bay, external module bay. Everything is multi-protocol. And so I was like, okay, this could be cool because maybe FlySky is coming out with a model that, you know, can kind of compete with those other ones. Well, not exactly, or at all, kind of. It's very much improved over the older versions, but it is nowhere near a radio like a multi-protocol Radio Master radio. So if you want to get into that kind of, like, it's a totally different zone of the multi-protocol radio that you can put an external module bay in the back, like to use TBS Crossfire or ELRS or whatever you want to do. Tons of firmware functions and configurations and customizations and all that stuff with the OpenTX, EdgeTX software that you can run on here. A lot of switches and all that stuff. This is the TX16S, and I've been using this for the past year. And so that was kind of my mindset. I was like, oh, well, how does this compare to this? But I realized it's like not even anywhere close. And price range, the TX16S starts from like 200 all the way up to like 300 plus, and then price point on the ST8 is $85 for the upgraded version and $75 for the standard version. You might just want to get the upgraded version just to give you a little bit more, I guess, longevity in case you want to do some stuff down the road, but we'll get into that. But if we compare this radio, the ST8, to the older FlySky i6X, which you've probably seen a lot on this channel because I kind of grew up on the i6X, and then also the i6 is the older version of that. And it's a great radio for the money, and it has been, and I think it still is. However, right now it's May 2022, and the i6X is going for around $70. Like, even on Banggood, it's going for $70, which is pretty nuts. And then, like I said, also on Banggood, the ST8, that's the only place I've been able to find this one. The ST8 is going for $75 to $85, and that does come with a, I believe it's the SR8 or the 8-channel receiver. So that's just to give you some information right up front in case, like, to get you kind of in the right ballpark of like, is this radio for me or is it not? So between these two radios, I would go with the ST8. Get out of here, i6X. We don't care about you anymore. And now we can just focus on the ST8. I'm going to basically go through all the features that I found that I like about it. Now, I'm not going to list every single thing that this radio does because it does do quite a bit, and it does every bit as much that the i6X does, but even more. And this is a really long list, so you might want to like sit down somewhere because it's a pretty big list. So I'm going to say a bunch of stuff, and then hopefully my editor, me, will be able to fill in all of this with as much B-roll of the actual things that I'm talking about as possible. Let's get started. Let's talk about the outside of the ST8 before we talk about the inside. Basically, they took the same basic design and layout of the i6X, and they put it in kind of an improved body. One of the things that you'll notice is the whale tail antenna thing, which honestly I'm not a big fan of because I mean, you can grab it between two fingers and you can hold on to it like that, but I really prefer just like having a handle on here. So not a fan of the whale tail. Also, they made the whale tail actually stick out beyond the body of the transmitter, which just makes packing and everything like that more difficult. So they shouldn't have done that. We keep the same switches and knobs on here. So we've got the three two-position switches and one three-position switch, and then we have two variable knobs. And this is the basic model. On the upgraded model, the main difference with the upgraded model is they're really pushing like a DIY improving it yourself aspect. And so you can, with the upgraded model, you can get additional like a scroll wheel thing for the shoulders, and then you can get two additional buttons on the back, and then you also get the adapter to use the FlySky module. The biggest improvement of this radio is that they have added a little jog wheel or a menu scroll wheel, and you can actually press it, and it's a button as well. It's kind of your enter button. And they have these 5-way trim switches on here, and that's kind of cool, but it can be a little tricky to tell which trim you're hitting, but it is definitely more sleek. The ST8 is powered from 4 AA batteries, but you can use a little JST battery connector for a 2-cell battery to power this thing. Now, why didn't they just go with like an XT60 or an XT30 or I mean, heck, just go with like a balance a balance lead. Just go with a balance lead, a 2-cell balance lead, because people have those and they don't have as many of those little JST weird little red connectors for their batteries. So don't know what you were thinking there, but that's how it is. On the very top of the radio, we have the trainer port, which connects to another radio so that you can have one radio for someone who's teaching someone to fly, and they can basically override the student's radio. So I think that's a really cool feature that the i6X does not have. Pretty much all these features that we're talking about, the i6X does not have, which is why they're worth talking about in this one. There's also a USB-C port for use with a simulator or updating the firmware. So you have 8 mixes instead of 3 that you had on the i6X. You can actually adjust the value of each trim step. So every time that it beeps and it goes beep for the trim, you can actually adjust how much it will move the channel on the trim, which is pretty cool, because maybe for something you want it to move like a lot, or something you want very, very fine movement. So that is neat. You can also adjust the speed of the channel, which at first I was like, that's dumb. Who wants to do that? Well, if you have landing gear or flaps, you don't want them to be like, boom, it's time to land, ka-dung, ka-dung. Nobody wants that. So you want them to, come up smoothly like that. So the user interface is much improved. The screen is still not that great. It's a black and white screen. And honestly, I think it's a little bit more confusing that they separated the menu into 4 different sections in the menu, 4 different menus, which I find a little tricky because I'm bouncing around to all the different menus. But one of the things that they really did well is they made it so you don't have to save every time you make a change. So on the i6X, you had to press and hold cancel, which is super counterintuitive, in order to save the settings that you just set on a particular page. Like let's say you wanted to change, the aux channels or something. You had to press and hold cancel to save it. On this one, as soon as you make the change and you deselect whatever it is that you changed, you can just back out of there and it will automatically save it. So good on you, FlySky. If you do decide to upgrade this with different switches, you could add a 3-position switch and then get more options. And what you can do is you can go in the software and actually assign how many positions each switch will have, so that your hardware, the actual switch moving 3 positions, will match the software, and you'll have 3 different channel positions instead of just all the way on or all the way off. You'll have low, middle, and high, basically. And one really cool feature that I just realized that they had on here is that the lanyard, well, they did improve the lanyard attachment point, and it's sturdier, and it has this little threaded hole where you can screw in accessories like a phone holder, which it doesn't come with that. I don't know why it didn't come with that. And honestly, I don't know where you can buy these accessories extra. I have not seen them available anywhere, so good luck finding them at the moment. But one of the things that they've done is they have actually made the height of the lanyard hole just taller than the actual sticks on the gimbals themselves. So if your radio tips over and falls forward, it's going to hit that lanyard hole, or it's going to hit that lanyard attachment point first, which I think is just really, really great. Because don't you just hate it? Oh, I hate it so much when your radio's there. Not to mention it could be unsafe, and then it tips over and it just lands on the sticks, and it's just moving the gimbals around. Ugh. So those are the main features that I thought was really cool that they added to the ST8 and basically improved over the i6X. Now let's talk about receivers for a minute. Now for the ANT protocol, you have fewer options because it's newer. Hopefully third-party receiver makers will start making that protocol. I don't know if it's super secret and just FlySky is going to make it or what, but you're a little bit more limited in your options. However, really you only need 2 receivers for most of your RC stuff. You need an airplane receiver that can connect directly to servos, and so that's going to be a PWM type receiver. And usually those can also be used with quadcopters, like if it has an iBus or S-bus port as well. So they're just more bulky, but usually you can use them with quads as well. And then for multi-rotors, you want a serial receiver or a serial protocol receiver. So what that's going to be is basically just a little tiny receiver, and you're going to just use 3 wires to hook it up. You could use more, but basically you need at least 3. You need power, ground, and signal. And so that is really all you need. You need those 2 types of receivers, and you can build planes, you can build quads, you can build big quads, little quads. The SRM receiver that I got was really quite small. It's actually smaller than the FLI 14 Plus receiver, which has been one of my favorites to use with the FS-ST8 protocol. So let's say you want to use the older FS-ST8 protocol receivers. Well, you're going to need to get that module, which where I found it's kind of hard to find. The only place I was able to find it was AliExpress, and it was, I think, like $20 to $30. It's hard to say because those places always say that like it's on sale. And like I said, you're going to need to buy the upgraded version of the FlySky ST8. That's how you do it. Now, let's say you want to go the other direction and you actually want to improve your receiver capability. Well, allegedly, I haven't tested it out, but let's say you want to step up to the AFHDS3, FlySky's premium receiver protocol. Well, you'll need that external module adapter, and you're going to want the FRM302 external module from FlySky. And that should allow you to use the AFHDS3 receivers. But it's going to set you back about $100. Yeah, $100 for that. And then the receivers themselves are probably $10 to $15 more expensive than the ANT protocol receivers. Maybe probably closer to $5 more expensive. So it seems kind of, honestly, I don't know why they didn't just put the AFHDS3 chip and all that stuff in this transmitter. Like, I don't know why they started a new protocol. I'm sure they have good technical reasons, probably, maybe, but it just seems like kind of a hassle. Or maybe they needed to sell some transmitter modules. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. But so I don't know. In a way, this is like the odd, middle child. It's going to cost you $100 just to get the transmitter module, and I feel like if you're doing that, then that probably means you're flying like long range or you're flying more seriously, in which case I feel like this radio is not really going to be a great radio for that, in the sense that the quality of the radio won't really match the quality that you will want if you are using that radio protocol to that extent. And obviously you're willing to drop $100 on the upgraded transmitter module, which, arguably I'd say maybe you should just get some other transmitter that uses a like TBS Crossfire or can use ELRS. I guess ELRS is really good, but I haven't personally tried it, and it doesn't have as much of a track record as the TBS Crossfire does. It's kind of like putting off-road suspension on a minivan or something. It's like, you can do it, but the rest of the vehicle is not really well suited for what you actually want to do. Like, you get what I'm saying, I think. Now, here's an important thing I want to talk about with the receivers. I took this out and I flew this around, and I put the receiver actually on this quad right here. This is kind of an experimental quad. Oh gosh, oh boy. Anyway, so I'm sure I'll show B-roll and stuff. So I hooked up the SRM receiver to this quad, took it out and flew it, and it was fine. Everything was great. It felt good. The quad felt good. Felt like I had a good connection, and I was flying at times almost like behind myself and with some trees around. Not very far, but there were some obstacles in the way. Had a good time. Everything was working great. And then I crashed. And then I took the quad home to fix it up. And then I took it back out to the field because we were going to do some long range testing. Or not long range, but like longer range, like just to see what kind of range the receiver had. Well, then weird things started to happen, and the quad started to behave erratically. I was getting kind of like frozen channel signals or like delayed channel signals. and it just kind of seemed to do
That's weird.
whatever it wanted to. It was kind of flying a little drunk, but then also like kind of on its
that's
own.
not good.
Fortunately, the disarm switch was
That's not
still
good.
working, so that was all good. And I was able to
this is
disarm
not
it without
accurate.
completely crashing
I'm gonna
it.
have to ditch it in a second.
But I have not figured out why
I'm gonna
that has
get low,
happened.
and then
At
I'm
first
gonna
I
ditch
thought that maybe it was... at first I hooked the quad up to the
Dang,
SpeedyB
boy.
app, or to Betaflight basically, to check the throttle signals and all the channel signals, and it looked choppy, and it looked like there was like delay in the signal. But then later, I hooked up. I did that same test with a quad that I know works well, and the TBS Crossfire. So I know that there was a good connection, and I was getting the same results on the configurator app. So meaning that, meaning that I don't know what is causing it exactly. I don't know if it's actually the receiver or if it's actually the gyro. So what I'll have to do is actually put that receiver on a working quad that I know works fine, and then see if I'm having issues with it. And then if I'm having issues with it, I'll know that there's something going on with the radio connection and the receiver connection. Now, this is kind of a big deal because, you know, it's like potentially, well, what is this trash? Is the ANT protocol trash? Did I get a bad receiver? Did something get damaged in the crash? That's quite possible. So unfortunately, I don't really know. But I will say it behaved perfectly fine the first time, and then later I was having those issues. But I want to let you know, just, you know, full disclosure, I did have those issues, and I haven't figured out what is the exact cause of those issues. All right, I think that's going to do it. Thanks again to FlySky for sending this to me so I could test out. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything of that nature, leave them down in the comments below this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again very soon.
We get bars in our